Hello, welcome to the basement. I have been finding more things down here. I have indeed. And indeed, some of what I found were things from years ago when I was at Lawrence Park Collegiate. For example, here's a thing that the students made that said, quite simply, in a few days, Super Dave is being taken from us. If you want to save Dave, email Premier Ernie Eves, Supervisor Paul Christie, and Director of Education David Reed. Tell them all in your own words why you know that LP needs Dave. Ernie Eves at, and it gives his email. Paul Christie gives his email. David Reed gives his email. Micah Rattazzi, who was the principal at the time. Kathleen Wynn, and also Louise Brown, who was a reporter at the Star, and it said, Save Dave. It did. Anyway, did it do any good? No. Because it was the days of amalgamation, when basically, as a way to, how do you put it? Oh, just keep people scrambling and not really realizing, hey, those guys in government are doing bad things. Forced amalgamation of Toronto, which is known, well, no, I never knew it as the Six, but Drake said Toronto was known as the Six, so people now call it the Six because Drake speaks for us all, don't you know? Anyway, so what happened, and I may have talked about this before, I'm sure I did. See, the Toronto Board of Education had people who we were known as hall monitors. And that, people say, oh, yeah, I just stand there and go, oh, yeah. You know what? Over the years, I've become involved in and got tips about all kinds of things, big and small, and saved, probably between 20 and 30 people from suicide, and all kinds of people from going astray, and stolen cars, and drug things, and it's endless. And the whole way I do that is, you see, some people think, oh, we must be authoritarian. And in the old days, of course, principals and vice principals, they were feared. We must have them fear us, and that's good. And maybe it is for some. And actually, at some point in times, it's not a bad thing. I don't mind if there's somebody in the building who is feared, because then I don't have to be the nasty one. I can be the one who just quietly says, that whoever the person is who is the feared one, just say that they're coming, and suddenly everybody scatters. Anyway, funny, when I was working at Earl Haig Secondary School, and there came a new fellow, and he was like, "Oh, we have to control every." I said, "No, no, no, no. That is not our job. We are not the controllers. We are the inspirers. We are the ones who are supposed to, be helpful and encourage people, and also, above all, be approachable. So when someone comes with a problem, we do our best to, as I say, drop everything and listen and say, oh, okay, so what's going on? Because then, if you, as Dr. Phil would say, if you don't listen to the little things, they won't tell you the big things. So that is, in fact, very true. So anyway, this was a good try. And of course, the fellow who was there, he hadn't been there very long, but he had more seniority than I, took great offense at this, even though it was the students that did it. And they didn't say they didn't want him to be there. They just said they wanted me to be there. Anyway, yes. I also found another thing. This was an article in a paper called The Town Crier, which, more and more and more and more and more, sadly, local newspapers are dying. They are. So here it is. Lawrence Park Collegiate says bye to beloved contributor. Super Dave, victim of hall monitor redeployment plan. And indeed, that was what happened, is they were forced to amalgamate into one big happy board of education, which still is in tatters 25 years later since it happened. The other stupid thing they did is they decided they would do this at the time of the March break of a very pivotal year. It was called the double cohort year, when grade 12s and the grade 13s were graduating. because they decided we don't need that grade 13 thing. Anyway, they should have left us until the end of June, finish off the year, and then off we go to our new schools, which, mind you, we shouldn't have gone to our new schools. What they should have done is hired more people for the other schools in the other boards that didn't have people like us, but that didn't happen. So anyway, here is the article. And there am I in front of Lawrence Park Collegiate Institute. There is my old motorcycle in the back there, and the school in the background. And, oh, look, reading glasses. I could read this without them. But I won't. It's not that long. David Bradley arrived on the scene at Lawrence Park Collegiate in 1991 with the menial task of preparing exams and diplomas. Shortly thereafter, he was asked to take over the school's hall monitor job, a job he gratefully accepted and has been ever since. But on March 1st, Bradley will be forced to leave the school, the students, and the community on which he has had such an incredible impact. Affectionately known as Super Dave by the students and teachers alike, Bradley is no ordinary hall monitor. He is heavily involved in all aspects of school life at Lawrence Park, from coach of the girls' hockey team to head of the plant club, and being involved in school plays, dances, sports club, school photography, and the school council newsletter. Super Dave is everything that embodies school spirit at Lawrence Park. I've not read this for a long time. It may get teary. As part of the upcoming redeployment plan, the Toronto District School Board, TDSB, has reassigned allocation of hall monitors in an effort to have at least one at every school in the Greater Toronto Area. As there are currently 2 hall monitors at Lawrence Park, one of them is being forced to leave, although Bradley has been at Lawrence Park for a longer period of time than his associate, who has chosen not to have his name mentioned. He has not been with the TDSB for as long and therefore gives up seniority. Michael Vertazzi, principal at Lawrence Park, acknowledges that Bradley's departure will be a great loss to the school. Dave has done a lot of extras around the school, including coaching, drama, and taking pictures. Anytime you lose someone who's involved with lots of extracurricular activities, there's going to be a huge void there. There's just not enough money to have all the hall monitors remain at the present schools, and at the same time assign new hall monitors to schools who are currently without them, he says. Understandably, Bradley is very upset at the prospect of having to leave the school that he's called home for more than a decade. I feel completely and totally devastated. It's kind of like a death. There are so many lives that I have been a part of, and I will likely never know how they turned out. So true, he says. When asked who is to blame for the redeployment plan of hall monitors across the Greater Toronto Area, Bradley points his finger directly at Queen's Park. The blame for this does not lie with the trustees or the school administration, he says. This trail of tears leads directly to the Premier's office because of their continued attacks on the education system. The people at the board don't care about what happens at individual schools or the effects that it has on them. If hall monitors weren't unionized, we would have been eliminated long ago. It is not just Bradley who is upset about having to leave Lawrence Park. Many students are unhappy about the decision as well. A petition has been circulating the halls of the school in desperate attempt to save his job. Shabdis, oh my, anyway, an OAC student has this to say regarding Bradley's imminent departure. It's too bad he's being forced to leave. Dave is an integral part of the Lawrence Park community. He attends all the school events. He's very active in everything and having to do with life at Lawrence Park. Most importantly, though, he keeps the school safe. Safety is without a doubt the most important issue here. Dave knows the ins and outs of everything that goes on in and around Lawrence. Without him, the school is definitely much worse off. Bradley appreciates the outpouring of support from the students at Lawrence Park, but in the end, he has no choice but to leave his school and community behind. I know that wherever I'm sent, I will make a difference, but it will take years to be half as effective as I am at Lawrence Park. I grew up in this area. I went to school in this area. This is my community, and I have dedicated years to getting to know the staff, students, parents, and members of the community. I feel betrayed by the Board of Education. I can only hope that no school is less safe when this process has finished. As it happens, of course, my father went to Lawrence Park Collegiate from, I would assume, about 1946, maybe 45 to 50 or so. And the school that I ended up having a hand in picking was Earl Haig Secondary School, where I went. And that, too, was a school that had a family history because long ago, North York had one high school. It was Earl Haig Secondary School, but they were building another one called Bathurst Heights. And for many years, the school of Bathurst Heights and the school of Earl Haig Secondary operated out of the same building, one earlier in the day, one later in the day. And my mother was part of that. And she ended up being part of the first graduating class from Bathurst Heights because I think maybe 2 or 3 months before they were to graduate, the new school was actually finished. So, officially, even though she spent years and years at Earl Haig, she was officially a Bathurst Heights graduate. She was. Anyway, yeah, this was not a happy time. And in recent years, for all kinds of silly reasons, and I really, actually, you know what? I don't know the reason. I was at Earl Haig for a very long time, and it all went very well. And sadly, in came a new principal, and things didn't go well. So, anyway, eventually I was banished, and it's a long, long story, a long tortured story, and it's not over yet. So anyway, I will hang on to these. I think this one here, maybe I have part of this framed upstairs. I will hang on to these and set them aside carefully. But still, you know, it's funny, people have said to me, oh, you care too much. Well, I don't believe that's possible. I believe that when a young person comes to you or to me or to anybody in distress, whether it be if you're out on the street or in your workplace or anywhere at all, if somebody appears in distress, then you don't, oh, I don't see this, I don't see, no, I don't see this. Then you do what you can to alert authorities, summon other resources, do whatever you can to make sure that they are safe and that they get home safe. Because as I have said many times over the years, well, first of all, when you go out into the halls or wherever, if there's no fires, as in if there's no real trouble going on, then do what you can to build bridges and be helpful and be available and whatever that means, to get the people to trust you enough to come to you if they are in trouble. The other thing is, well, there was always that drop everything and listen. So say the officer said, oh, we need these flyers put up about some event or whatever. But if a kid in obvious distress appears, the flyers don't matter. They really don't. I think you may remember, if you've watched, I did have trouble with I had trouble at Canadian Tire once where I'm standing in front of a display case, and there is exactly what I want. But I can't find anybody to open the display case. So eventually I phoned the store and said, hi, do you have whatever? And they, oh, no, we don't have anything like that. And I said, really? Well, I'm standing in aisle like 61, and I'm looking right at it, and I'm in the store, but I can't find anybody to open it. So this is where, like, customer service comes into it. Anyway, yes, care. Like, for example, another thing I said, and we had a meeting this year at the school I'm currently at about how to handle people in distress and suicidal and stuff. And of course they say, oh, you can't promise them that you won't tell anybody. To which I got up and I said, oh, yeah, you can. You can't keep that promise. But basically, if you're in a situation where somebody is distraught and they might hurt themselves and you think they're going to, first of all, you don't let them out of your sight. And you say what you must be said to keep them in your confidence and insight and in continuing to talk to try and get help while you are summoning help. And if you have to lie to them, you do. Because, and this is back to what I was going to say, I've said many times, no parent wants to hear some proud TDSB person say, don't worry, all of the board's policies were followed to the letter, but your child is dead. But our liability, no, we have no liability. We did everything as we should. They don't want to hear that. They want to hear that teacher, the social worker, the admin, anybody who was involved, who had wind of the situation, who got even the caretaker, anybody who became aware of the situation, did everything that was um, that they could do to make sure that in the end, even if they did have to, and I have betrayed people's trust and lied to them to help save them, and at the time, they may not have liked it, but they all eventually realized that I had to do what I had to do. And I mean, if really, if well, actually, with my little grandmother who once had to have an operation, and afterwards she said, "Oh, you should have let me go." She was in her 90s, but she was still mentally with it. And had she been demented, we might have made another decision. But I just said, "Grandma, you'll just have to live with it," and she did for another many, many years. So the role of hall monitor is not just monitor the halls, and it isn't sit in your office and drink tea and other things. You get involved and you do what you can, because you know what? Every day when I go into whatever school I'm at, I really have nothing to do. But very soon, I'm very busy doing it, because you never know what's going to happen. You never know who's going to be in distress, or who can't find something, or who's like new to the school and there may be a language barrier. It's funny, I learned something new this year. I'm learning all the time. And that is, there's this Google thing where they can, say something, and then the Google thing will tell me what they said. And I'm like, this is good, because there's people coming to this country from all over the world all the time, and um, there may be a language barrier. There may be, but we work together, we work it out, and we find solutions. It's funny, when I think back to a thing that happened at Earl Haig not long after a new principal arrived. I worked with a fellow who spoke perfect Farsi, or Persian, or whatever you would like to call it, and we had a vast, vast population of people who spoke that language. And they were new to the country, not stupid people, just they didn't speak English. And she told him that if he spoke to them in Farsi to help them resolve their problems and issues, he was giving them an unfair advantage. To which I looked at her in disbelief, stunned disbelief, and said, "You can't be serious. He is just bringing them up to par of being understood." And you know what? At that point, looking back on it, I should have just said, "That's it. There's no help. There's no hope in helping this situation. Let's both go to other schools where we can be helpful." Anyway, that too is an ongoing situation which is not over. And yes, there are people that must control everything, and then there are people who inspire greatness. And I would like to think that everybody I have worked with who has learned from me understands that you have to do what you have to do in the midst of a crisis, um, or intruders, or fights, or other things. But the other times, the most of the time, you just build those bridges, build bridges, and don't try to be helpful. Be helpful. There's a difference. Trying to be helpful is thinking that, oh, I have figured out some grand solution to some problem that probably doesn't exist, and we're going to do this to fix it. Being helpful is being ready and available to drop everything and listen and assess the situation carefully and summon whatever resources. And, you know, don't be on your phone going, "Yeah, I'm listening." Or I don't know how many times I've gone into vice principal's office when I have a serious issue, and there they are typing away, "Oh, yeah, yeah, I'm listening," and they're not listening. So I just get up and leave. Because you know what? People want to be heard. People want to be listened to. And even if they're dead, stone cold wrong, still let them talk. Let them vent. Let them get it out. and then help them understand perhaps there's an error in their way. Anyway, I have not been back to Lawrence Park Collegiate in a very long time, and I was there. There was a reunion some years ago I went to, and actually the newspaper there, people did want to, oh yeah, we got to talk to you. And so I did talk to them about things, and that was, I know, for example, see, here's the thing about saving people from suicide. You never know necessarily that you did it or that you had a hand in it, because sometimes they don't talk to you. It's just um, that you were kind, or you were helpful, or you did something that helped them get through that awful day. But the first person I know that I saved from suicide, and I don't remember the name of the person, but I just saw them coming down the hall. I thought, I looked, I read faces. I've not had training in this, but I just read faces and go, huh, something is not right here. So, our psychologist, psychiatrist, somebody was in, and I took the person to them, and they talked to them, and they said, right, we're going to the hospital, and you need to come. And I went, and I minded them, and then they were assessed at the hospital. They were admitted to the hospital, and in the midst of that, and this is before you could just quickly text and phone and whatever, cell phones were rather rare at the time. A call had been placed to parental units, etc. Anyway, when the mother got home and such, and was listening to the message about, okay, we're at the hospital with your child, and da 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 da, on the counter next to the phone or the answering machine was the suicide note. And people asked me afterwards, how did you know? How did you know? How could you possibly tell? And I said, I don't know. I just looked at his face. Something is not right here. And so I acted. And that is another thing that sadly some of the controlling administrators do, is that they get everyone into such a state of fear about acting, is that they put on blinders and they say, I didn't see, I didn't hear, I don't know, kind of like the hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil, which of course, yeah, not my circus, not my monkeys. This is not helpful. You really, it reminds me, actually, there's a fellow I know from the T-Pug days, Bill Bullock, who flew for Air Canada, and that is, you want people to tell you if they think they see something or notice something. So, like when you're flying and somebody says something that you already know, you don't say, I know that. I know the flaps are down, or I know that, I know the gear is hot, or I knew whatever. You say, thank you, because you never know that one time where they are trying to get a message to you about something that they've noticed that you have not noticed, and you want them to speak up. So, um, if you see somebody who you think is in distress, then you act and do what you can. And as I say, summon other resources. You can't try and handle everything on your own. You summon the people and get them involved. And it's funny because, people say, oh, well, like social worker might say, well, I have to have a referral from the teacher. I have to this or I have to that. To which I say, bunk. There is no time for that. I don't care what alpha they're in. I don't care what referrals you need. I think there's something going on here, so why don't you just be helpful? Yes, in other words, drop everything and listen. Listen. And not just, oh yeah, I'm listening, I'm paying attention. Huh? What'd you say? Where'd you go? What's going on? Listen. Set down the poster, set down the tape. Take your hands off the keyboard, turn, face them. Put your phone down. If your phone rings, ignore it. They'll call back, they'll leave a message. When someone is in distress, you listen, you give eye contact, and you say, oh, that you just let them talk. Because sometimes they can even just talk themselves out of the crisis, just having somebody to listen to them. And if it takes a little while, it's okay. In my role, as I say, I have nothing to do. So if somebody appears and they're in distress, they need to go for a walk and get it out. They need to, whatever. Um, and if in the midst of that you decide that, okay, we need more help here, then if you're pretty sure that by telling them, okay, we need to go to guidance, if this is going to spook them, then you don't do that. You find a way to summon people, other resources in a discreet way that will not alarm the person to say, oh dear, they're going to get other people involved to try and help me and keep me alive. And at the time, they may not want that, but they really do. But you have to work with people, not against them, and be creative and, um, do what must be done. Because as I said before, no parent wants to hear, don't worry, all the policies of the board were followed, but your child unfortunately is dead. You do what you have to do. And as they say, better to be judged by 12 than carried by 6, or have somebody else carried by 6. And the other secret of all this is, in the midst of all of this, if you do find yourself in a situation that is unusual and not what you had in mind and not normal, then as quickly and as often as you can, you tell people. You send emails, you send texts now, or you do something to let people know, yo, in a situation, here's what's going on. Want you to be aware. Here's what help I need. Here's, whatever, so that they know. And of course, sadly, in these days of controllers, um, they will forever say, oh, you shouldn't have done that. But you know what? You got to go with your gut and save lives and preserve little minds. Anyway, um, yeah, it's funny how you can dedicate so many years to something and then have some new person come in and say, well, I am in charge now. And sadly, as people won't like hearing this, but sadly, you know what? There is favoritism, and it is oftentimes based on heritage. And I have seen people who are in roles of administration favor people of certain heritages and also pick on people who have funny accents, who may be brilliant and, an inspiration to their students, but oh, they have a funny accent. So we're going to pick on them and torment them so that hopefully they leave or retire early or something. And here they are. So, oh, yes, we're all about inclusivity and all these other beautiful, like they've all taken courses on it. But when it comes down to it, there are people in charge who still are not fair. They're not. And the sad thing is, they think they're fooling everybody, but they're fooling nobody. Sort of like the drunk who's always drunk. That you think, oh, I'm much smarter. Much smarter. Oh, that's another thing. You know what? I have had colleagues from a variety of disciplines within the school system who have had drinking problems and been of assistance in helping them get help, either directly or indirectly, and essentially saving them from a premature death due to alcoholism. And it's men, it's women, it's old, it's young, all kinds. Anyway, it's just about being around and caring enough. So when people say, oh, you care too much, like, no, that's really not. I became aware of a situation and the person needed help. And I mean, when you talk about liability, okay, hang on. There you go. Didn't see, didn't hear, don't know, no. Which gives you, of course, plausible deniability. but deep down you know that you should have done something, should have opened your eyes. But of course, sadly, if the admin and other higher ups have things in such a state that you are afraid to get involved and speak out when you see something, then people fall through the cracks. Why? Because they want to project the image that everything is perfect and everything is dandy and there's no problem here, when in fact, what they should, I mean, a lot of the boards of education, their motto should be, and pause while I'm thinking, well, okay, I'm not going to use the bad word. I'll use it this way. I'll say, crap happens, things happen, and we deal with them quickly, effectively, efficiently, thoughtfully, carefully, and justly. You can't say when you have a school of hundreds or thousands that there are not going to be issues. And the best way to prevent issues is to have people who, like me, who people will come to when an issue is small and get it resolved. Or if something does in fact happen, then deal with it with fairness and just and justice and truth and reconciliation and get things resolved. Not a fake peace, not don't do the I'm trying to help. Be helpful. And part of that, the big part of that is listen, listen, listen. Drop everything and listen. And really listen. And I'm going to tell one more story. There was a time there was a student who was in distress. They'd been cutting themselves. And they came to me because they called, I guess, Kids Help Phone. And they said, well, find somebody you trust at your school and tell them what's going on. So they found me. And so when they came, I didn't know what was going on, but I just drop everything and listen. So we went into a nice place, which was the cafeteria, even though it was the middle of the day. I guess it was actually probably early in the day. And the cafeteria, even though it was open, it was very quiet. This is the other thing, stay in the open. Stay in the open. Don't go to a confined little space or whatever. Stay in them. So we're sitting in the cafeteria, listening to the horrors that is going on in this young person's life and why they're cutting themselves. And meanwhile, of course, and this is another problem, is there's always somebody somewhere who decides that when they see something going on, like I'm sitting across the table from somebody in the cafeteria listening to this sad story and them showing me the cuts and things on their arms, and even though the other person has no clue what's going on, they decide that something is wrong and that I'm doing something wrong. So they're like, and they go to somebody and say, you know what? He's doing something wrong. He's just sitting there. Yeah, well, probably doing some of the most important work there is. But sadly, people sometimes don't understand that sometimes the most important thing you can do is listen. Because, in fact, that young person did um, end up going to guidance and they got help from social workers, other things, and also because there was a kind of a volatile situation going on at home where they had their door at home had a lock and there was a phone jack, but they had no phone. So we came up with a plan where we would find a little phone. This is before cell phones were everywhere. A little phone that they would leave the ringer turned off so that their people who were involved in the potentially volatile situations wouldn't realize they had a phone, but that if they really needed to, in the midst of some crisis, phone 911 or some other helpful resource, that they could. And so it's kind of like a barf bag on a plane. You hope you don't need it, but if you do, it's there. And from what I know, they never had to use this phone, but felt much better having it tucked away, hidden away, that they knew it was there. So once again, creative, work together, find solutions, and help people's mental health and such. Anyway, when I left Lawrence Park, I know there were a lot of people that I literally left behind. I don't know what happened to them because it was really before Facebook and before other things. Um, just recently, I did find, and I don't know how I found this or how it came to me, I found an old videotape that has some of the young people doing things for some video assignment. It's the raw footage, it's not the assignment. Who knows if the assignment ever got done? But I did, on the Facebook area of that school, put out a message saying, yo, if anybody knows where any of these people are, I did find this thing. And I haven't made well, we've made contact, but I got delayed with other things. So I haven't handed over the tape, but there's all this stuff, which is probably now, oh, maybe not 30 years ago, but certainly these people are probably in their 40s, and they might enjoy seeing themselves doing all this preparation. And it was a lot of basketball shots and dunking and things and stuff for this assignment. Once again, I don't know if the assignment ever got done. At the time, maybe these people were not the best scholars, but they, who knows what they're up to now. So I will get a chance to catch up and find out a little bit about what's going on with them, and pass on these memories of old. Anyway, yes, I was not going to talk this long, but you may be able to tell I'm rather passionate about all this, and also I feel that in the whole situation of what's gone on lately, that I have not been listened to, which of course is exactly what I think should be happening. People should be listened to, even if you think they're wrong. Listen to them. And am I always right? No, I am not always right. I mean, I love that statement. Um, I was wrong once, but I was mistaken. This is not the case. I make mistakes all the time, and I tell people, you know, you there's nothing wrong with making mistakes. There's nothing wrong with making an error. It's learning from it. It's when you do the same thing over and over and over, like people say, "Oh, it's cute. Oh, I put my car keys down and I can't find them. Oh, help me look." Waste time, waste energy, and the odd time, like I have on occasion, put keys down and lost, but still, I adapt quickly to, okay, that didn't go well. For example, I had a thing happen last week where my car suddenly wouldn't start, and I wasn't at home, and I was like, wow. And the back hatch, if you have no power, it won't open. So where's the battery? In the back. Where's the jumper cables? In the back. So now I have jumper cables, which I already had, but now I keep them under the seat in the front. So if I do run into a situation like that it doesn't matter that I can't open the back hatch, because there was a place in the front where you can use to jump the car. And I had people who would have helped jump the car, but they didn't have cables. But I had cables, but I couldn't get at them. So anyway, always learn, always be ready to adapt, and have an open mind to how you can make these little tweaky changes that in a situation that you didn't think of at the time, but now you've gone through it, you can say, ah, yes, I can do better. Anyway, so I think the most frustrating thing in life is finding people who make mistakes, the same mistake over and over and over, and don't learn from it, and don't try and adapt. And somehow they think it's cute, like, oh, look, I bet you I have the record with the TD Bank on how many cards I've had replaced because I keep losing them, or I keep misplacing them, or it's not funny. It's not funny. I mean, things happen. But as they say, be a lifelong learner, and there will be things that come up that you didn't think of. There will be situations that even though you've done everything you can possibly do, or you think you've done everything you can possibly do, something, Murphy, as in Murphy's Law, will come along and prove you wrong. But still, even in that situation, learn from that too. Move forward. Find a better way. Just be that much more aware of, like when I get on my car, I always am like, okay, wallet, keys, phone, things, stuff, I have this mental checklist so that I don't lock the keys in the car, and I don't forget, oh yeah, I had the phone charging, like double check. It doesn't take any extra time, really, to just say, okay, wait a second, take an inventory. See what's what. Anyway, and above all, if you're out in the world, and I have done this a time or two, it's not often, but if you're out in the world and you see a young person who is in distress or lost or, anything like that, don't be afraid to, to try, not try and help, but be helpful and at least listen to them. Or if you can't, and I have done this a time or two where I've seen people, like say I'm driving and I look across the street, I'm sitting in a light, I'm like, okay, something is not right here. I'll call 911 and say, hey, here's where I'm at. I'm at this corner and I can't really get to them, but I see across the way that it looks like there's a situation or there's a person in distress or whatever, and make people aware. Don't just put on the blinders saying, oh, I don't want to get involved. Because, yeah, when I call 911, yes, they ask who I am, I'll tell them. And, they might at some point get back to me if they have to about something, but they don't. They thank you for the information, and then they see what they can do. And do I ever know what happens? No, not often, but sometimes. Anyway, yes, you care too much. Anyway, I don't care to speak any more about this at this time. I did not intend to speak this long at this point. So I'm going to take these things and carefully set them aside. And remember, that's not sitting nicely. That's not sitting nicely. Remember all the good work that I did at Lawrence Park Collegiate Institute for the, sort of dozen years that I was there. And all the good work that I did at Earl Haig Secondary School. And let's see where things shake out. We shall. Memories, memories. Anyway, thanks for coming. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. And hope you have a very good day. And I hope that if you're in distress, you have the courage to reach out and that somebody somewhere listens to you. By the way, that's another thing. Say some student I notice who is in distress, and then I go to Vice Principal A, and I walk into the office and say, hey, I found somebody in distress. And they're like, yeah, I'm listening. Yeah. No, I'm really, whatever. Oh, if they don't seem interested or they seem too busy or they're not in it or not, wanting to, by law, I can't stop looking. I have to go to somebody else. So you keep going to somebody else and keep going to somebody else. And I know it's you're the person in distress. I know it's hard to do that. But if you go to somebody for assistance and they're like, oh, yeah, whatever. Oh, I'm too busy. Or like I'm much too busy filling the shelves to actually help a customer. Go find somebody else. And if you find, like, if you come upon a situation where you're like, oh, this isn't good, and people don't want to listen, find somebody else. Don't just stop and then hear later that, oh, gee, it went tragic. Don't do it. Don't do it. Just have the courage. Have your eyes open enough to notice and have the courage to then do what needs to be done. And does this happen all the time? No, it really doesn't. I was going to stop. I am. I'm going to stop. Anyway, there was one time when I was in Shoppers and I saw somebody trying to steal stuff. And in fact, they did steal things. And then I called the police once they'd left the store. And I kind of followed. And to make a long story short, it ended up that I don't know. I don't think anyone was hurt or no cop was hurt, but they tried to flee and they tried to hide. And it ended up that the helicopter from the York Regional Police was hovering overhead. And they did, in fact, find the person and apprehend the person. Um, but anyway, um, don't wear blinders and do what you can to be helpful. And, because the bullies rely on the fact that they figure that if you do figure out that they're bullies and you're doing stuff, that they'll keep on bullying you, and in order to preserve either their alcoholism or their bullyism or their racism or whatever it is that they do, and that they'll just, once they've got you and they're, oh, he's figured me out, and then they're onto you, they will just keep at it. But you have to stand strong and say, hi, this is wrong, or the emperor has no clothes, or the baby is ugly. And do what you gotta do. Anyway, whew, I had no idea. Oh, I hear Penny. Penny? Are you out there? Hello, Penny. Penny. See? Penny is calling. So just as if she was a student in the halls who was upset, or somebody I bumped into on the street who was obviously in need of something, or something. Hello, Penny. It is time to drop everything and listen. And now here's Penny. Let's see. Penny, 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 come on. Penny, Penny, Penny. Come on up. Up, 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 up. Penny, 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 Penny. Up, 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 up. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. You want me to lift you? You want me to lift you, Penny? Here, 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 here. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. There's Penny. Hello, Penny. How you doing? Penny does not like being brushed, but occasionally I get to brush her because she does get these little matty things. And I once again try. Oh, there, I got one. Look at that, Penny. I got one out. I got one out. I do. I did. I shall. I must. But anyway, so Penny, I'm not sure if she is looking for food or she is looking for water, but it is time to drop everything, or maybe she just needs her head scratched or her chin rubbed. Maybe. Oh yeah. That's what you do. Drop everything and listen and come up with creative solutions to the issue. Isn't that right, Penny? What you looking for? What you doing? What you doing? Yeah, that's a radio. It is. That is the radio. No, that one didn't come out. Okay. We've got to get the brush on Penny. Are you going to roll over? Are you going to do the big flop? Are you going to do the big flop, Penny? Penny, are you going to do the big flop? No. Penny wants her ears scratched. Yes. Drop everything. Listen. Yes. Penny does not often come to the basement. But today she has, oh, the big flop. There's the big flop. Yes. Funny, sometimes I go to pet over here and she's like, no, not there. Do my ears. Do my ears. Or she always has a way. She doesn't bite, but sometimes she'll do a little nip and say, no, 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 that's not what I'm after. That is not what I'm after. And Penny does not like really being held. And she's not like one who will crawl up on your shoulder and say, hi, I'm your cat here. She does not, she will not. Oh, yeah. Hello. You want your belly rubbed? Maybe she does. Maybe she doesn't. You are in danger of falling, Penny. You are in danger of falling. No falling down for Penny. No falling down for Penny. No falling down. If you twist around enough, you might fall down. Oh, cat hair, cat hair, cat hair. Okay, well, that's enough for now. I'm going to go upstairs and see about food and water for Penny. Right, Penny? That's Penny scratching on the box. That's her way of saying, yo, yo, listen to me. So I shall. Anyway, thanks for coming. Have a lovely, lovely day. And if you have a chance to save somebody, do it. Right, Penny? Right. All right. David Bradley in the basement, signing off. Bye for now.